Hey guys, it's Tank. Hope you guys are looking forward to this year's Little Big Show just like I am. This year we've got some cool stuff going on. We have $1,000 added to pro payouts, as well as $500 added to AM payouts, as well as playing 2 new courses. In this video, I'll be going over the new Wildcat Course layout, which includes 13 new holes. Hole 1 is a par 5, 880 feet. You must cross this creek. Otherwise you are OB. If you do not cross the creek, you'll play a drop zone. This left side where all the tall grass is next to the railroad tracks will also be OB. If you go over that, you play normal OB rules. This is hole 2. Not quite as long. The OB on this one is if you somehow make it past it into the creek and beyond is OB, as well as if you somehow cross the tall grass line behind you, that is also OB. As well as if you make it into the island on the next hole, that will also be OB on this one. So hole 3 is a short island hole. It's only 250 feet, but you must land on the island. The island is defined by the outside edge of the telephone poles that make up the island. If you do not make it in the island from your tee shot, this right corner has a drop zone that is marked by the post. If you look here, you can see it. That right corner is the drop zone. And if you do not make it on the island, you'll putt from there. If you miss again, then you will play normal OB rules. Hole 4 will be in the B placement just across the creek. There will be no drop zone on this one, but the road to the left is OB, as well as in the creek will be OB. If you land in the creek, you will play from where you were last in bounds. There will be no drop zone on this year. And obviously across the creek will be inbounds. Hole 5 will be in the B placement as well. OB in the creek on the right. It must be, if you're in that creek, you will play normal OB rules. Once you're done playing this hole, you will walk back up this way a little bit, and on the right in this video is where you'll go in. Follow signage and arrows and you'll get there. Hole 6 is the first hole in the woods. Creek to the right is OB. That is the OB line. So if you land in the creek, you are out of bounds. Play normal OB rules. If you make it over the creek, you are also out of bounds. A lot of these in the woods will be blind shots, so make sure you watch these videos and understand what's going on. Hole 7 is a par 4 in the woods. You will not be able to see the basket on this. Creek to the right and past the basket are both OB. This is more of a placement shot. Ideally, on your first shot, if you can land right around where this burn spot is, or a little bit right of that, you'll be in a good spot to throw up for a birdie. Hole 8, creek in and beyond, will be OB. This one's kind of tricky. The main goal of this one is to get out of this first tunnel shot. It's only about 130 feet. Not too far, but you definitely want to get out of these trees. You get hung up early, it can cause all kinds of trouble. If you punch through, you can be in a good placement to possibly get a birdie. But the trick is to make sure you get out. But when you do that, the creek comes into play. Hole 9 will be in the B placement, which is a 430-foot par 4. OBs on this one, if you somehow make it into the creek, that will be OB. Other than that, there's really not going to be any OBs on this. This is the A placement. If If we go a little bit further past this root ball and this down tree, we'll get to where the basket will be in the B placement. Hole 10 won't really have any OBs other than those that are talked about on other holes like the creek and the walking paths and things like that, but all of those will be very difficult to get to on this hole. This is another interesting shot with a finish on an elevated basket that we mounted on a spool. Hole 11 will be in the B placement, which is a 525-foot par 4. OBs will be to the left, the paved path that runs along 15's fairway as well. That will be OB on or beyond. We sometimes do a fairway separator, and for this tournament we will not be doing that. So make sure you pay attention to where people are at and where you're throwing. Hole 12 will be through the woods just past hole 14. OBs on this, same thing. There will be a line all the way along the right side of the fairway on hole 14. If you somehow make it across that, that will be OB. Hole 13, same thing as the previous hole. If somehow you get out of the woods and make it all the way across the OB line or into the creek or something along those lines, those are OB just like they are on other holes. Otherwise, there is no OB. There is a fence line on the right side. It's mostly down and it's kind of hard to find where it is. That fence line is not OB at all. So if you get across it, you still play from where you're at. Hole 14, on the right hand side where all of the trees and tall grass are, that tall grass line will be OB. I will be marking an orange line all the way along this right side here. The reason is there's a fence in there that's kind of nebulous, as well as the railroad tracks are just on the other side of that. So it needs to make sure that there is a consistent OB that you can easily follow. So if anything, make sure you end up on the left side, because if you tuck into that tall grass, you're going to be OB. Around this corner, it gets a little bit easier to define, but make sure you pay attention on that right side. Hole 15, the paved path on the right that runs along the railroad tracks, on or beyond that is OB. As well as if somehow you make it all the way past this to the paved road on hole 16 is also OB. Hole 16 will be in the B placement. Paved path and paved road, on or beyond, either of those is going to be OB. Hole 17, OBs will be the creek in and beyond if somehow you make it to there, as well as any other OBs that are marked on other holes, such as the island. The island would be OB if somehow you land in that. The tall grass would be OB if somehow you make it past that. That's by the railroad tracks. For the most part, the OBs on this will be very difficult for you to end up in, but they are still there. Hole 18 is a 685-foot par 4. On the left side, the creek runs all the way along that. The line will be painted most likely at the tall grass line. Depends on what's been mowed and what hasn't, but most likely it'll be along that tall grass line all the way along the left. towards the end, it becomes a concrete barrier. So I will paint to the concrete barrier, and then at that point, the edge, the straight edge of the concrete barrier will be the OB line. If it's anywhere that is nebulous and it's hard to figure out, I will also paint that. Hope you guys are excited for this year's Little Big Show. I know I am, and I look forward to seeing you guys all out there. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the 22nd.